Meetings to order. City Recorder Krager, please call roll.
Councillor Wolf.
Here.
Council President Hu.
Here.
Mayor Liu.
Here.
Youth Councillor Nog.
Here.
Councillor Shaw.
Here.
Councillor Singh.
Here.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Council or staff, any non-agenda items this evening? City Manager Reimer.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Mayor and councilors. We would like to bring forward a discussion about a vacancy with the youth member position on the Charter Review Committee, please.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Okay. Seeing none, we will move forward to public comments. If you would like to call in tonight, please call in at 503-966-4101, and those wishing to comment should call now to get in the queue. Anyone present wanting to comment should sign up on the public comment form in the front of the room. Is anyone signed up? Okay. And we will start with follow-up to previous public comment. There was no public comment last meeting as well. So we will start with the Tigard Chamber of Commerce. The Tigard Area Chamber of Commerce Board Chair, Michelle Cheney, is here to give us an update. Welcome, Michelle. Please have a seat and turn on the mic in front of you.
Okay, great. Hello, everyone. Welcome to all of our new counselors and returning counselors. My name is Michelle Cheney. I'm the board chair of the Tigard Chamber of Commerce, and I come every month to update you on the goings-on at the chamber. Right now we are interviewing for a new CEO, and if you all have any great candidates, please send them our way. Our application is out on Indeed. We have a Leadership Tigard class that meets once a month. They met today, and today's was about businesses in Tigard, and so they heard from several businesses and also toured them. It's all listed on your sheet. We have a couple of committees that will be meeting in January, our DEI committee and also our Government Affairs and Public Policy committee. Representative Andrea Salinas will be joining us as well. We would like you to save the date for our State of Business. That's on February 2nd, and the topic is the impact of inflation and rising costs that business face in 2023. As far as promoting our community, we do have our nominations open right now for Tigard Shining Stars, which highlights the excellent volunteers in our community. And then we'd also like to let everyone know that we have our scholarship applications open. We give those to students in the Tigard and Tualatin area. On February 25th, we'd like to invite you all to the Tigard Bowl for Bowl-O-Rama. We would really love to have a City of Tigard team. So we hope you join us for that. And then our Tigard Shining Stars Awards ceremony is on May 5th at Embassy Suites. Let's see, and then as far as our networking events, we do have some networking events going on in January. Also on February 9th, we have our speed networking, and we'd love to see you at that. If you all have your own businesses and would like to promote them, we'd love to see you. And then finally, our Tigard Farmers Market update. We just started our vendor applications January 1st, and we've already gotten several return vendors who are coming back. So we're excited about that. And just to let you know, our Tigard Farmers Market opens on May 7. And I think that's it. Thank you all very much.
May 7th in Universal Plaza.
May 7th in Universal Plaza.
There we go.
Yes, we are very excited about our new location.
Is there anybody who has questions? Youth Councillor Nog?
I was wondering, I know that the farmers market oftentimes has live music. I was wondering like who we talk to in case, because I know there's a lot of Tigard High students that have been interested in performing. They just didn't know where to go. So is it like a formal application?
I don't know. How about if I research that and get back to you? That's a great question, though. Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Ms. Cheney? Okay. Thank you so much. We
Thank
look
you.
forward to seeing you next month.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Up next, we have the Tigard High School Envoy report, and that is with Kayla. How do you pronounce your last name, Kayla?
Come.
Come. Okay, perfect. If you could let us know what's going on, that would be wonderful.
Yes, of course. Thank you for having me again. So winter break just ended on January 2nd with students returning to school on January 3rd. In leadership, the Interclub Council Committee is planning a winter festival on Friday, January 27th from 5 to 7 p.m. This will be an event for younger kids to come and participate in fun activities like snowflake making and hot cocoa making. The Assemblies Committee is working on a Valentine's Day assembly. The sophomore class is planning a winter formal/semi-formal for January 28th. And the HR committee is planning Unity Week at THS for this March. So this will be an entire week dedicated to bringing our school together through a variety of activities. In terms of sports, boys basketball was in the Les Schwab's Invitational over winter break and placed second in the consolation bracket. And the girls basketball was in the Holiday Classic and went undefeated. Swim had a meet last Thursday against Oregon City and has one this Thursday as well against St. Mary's. Wrestling had a tournament over the weekend in Seaside, and dance is preparing for category championships right now. In terms of the arts, theater is getting ready to perform its SpongeBob play, which will debut in March. And band, orchestra, and choir all had their winter concerts in December and are now preparing for state. In terms of service, this past week, National Honor Society and Service Club members took down Christmas lights for local senior citizens. This last season, they were able to decorate 53 houses. And National Honor Society is also sponsoring another blood drive with the American Red Cross on the 16th. Thank you.
Y'all sound very busy. Thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions? No? Thank you for your time tonight. Up next, we have the police chief update. Chief McAlpine?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Chief Kathy McAlpine for your end of year 2022 final statistics. I wish I had as much optimism as you just heard of our last two, but unfortunately I'm going to ground us in a little bit of reality right now. As you got your packet, obviously, as you get used to navigating, there's a lot of information monthly, and just as a reminder, anything that comes to mind to you and you want further information, I'm always accessible. Once I do this presentation, it does get put on our police transparency page, so the community members get to see this dashboard as well. So as we closed out 2022, you see violent crimes. Now, generally they're embedded in our persons crime, but it's always very important to at least once a year pull these out. This is your homicides, your aggravated assaults, forcible rapes, things of that nature. And you can see we trended up quite a bit, even though, there's small numbers, they can be larger increases, but that is a concerning. Of that, we had 3 homicides this year. In comparison, last year we had 4. That's a troubling trend. That's 7, where the previous 4 years, all total of those 4 years, you had 2. And a lot of these are during some criminal activity. So these are not, victims of, unknown victims of random violent crimes. This is in place of perhaps a drug deal gone bad, things of that nature that we're seeing, but still a troubling trend nonetheless. Next slide, please. Yeah. So again, overall, on the crimes against person, you can see again where we're trending, and that's up from about 34% from last year. 2018 is where I really look at kind of pre-pandemic, and so that's my gauge. That was at our height, what we saw, which really prompted kind of the levy ask. We were not staffed properly, and those numbers. And so we did dip during the pandemic, but now we're climbing again and actually surpassing 2018, which is obviously not what we want to see. And again, even though homicides appeared as down 25% from last year, again, 4 last year was a complete anomaly, and to even have 3, which includes our double homicide at the Embassy Suites, and then, of course, the homicide at Just Compassion behind their facilities. Other trends that we're seeing is, again, robberies. When a shoplift goes bad and loss prevention or law enforcement wants to take somebody in custody, we see the combativeness fighting back. And that then changes it from a theft to now a robbery. And so that's why you see those numbers, and they're up 89%. And that is a national trend that we're seeing, is this combativeness to loss prevention. And some of it is just our locals, and others are the organized retail rings. Next slide. So crimes against property, as you can imagine, that's all stolen property, arson, embezzlement, forgery, stolen vehicles, burglaries, and that's all burglaries, your residential, commercial. The others are generally our storage facilities, is how we parse those out. And then, of course, any vandalism, frauds, and our thefts. Where we're seeing the uptick in particular is our stolen vehicles. And again, we saw a lot of them being recovered in Portland and vice versa. That was up 69% from the year before. Burglaries were up 48%, but it was over 100% for the storage facilities. And a lot of that, we saw the trend was the way facilities were managing during the COVID time and allowing remote access and things of that nature. We saw that people were taking advantage of being able to access those storage units. And then, of course, thefts. And with organized retail, we went from 48 in 2021 to 128 in 2022. And again, that is a national trend. That, and in fact, I think there's some legislative movement asking for Department of Justice to study organized retail theft a little bit more, because it is such a national trend. And we've had many agencies come and say, tell us about your commercial crime unit and the things that you're doing, because they're also trying to respond in the same area. And then finally, as very important is I always talk about, is our dispatch calls for service. And you can see that, again, we've surpassed 2018, almost 300 calls. But what is not obvious in there that I think I need to point out, in 2018, we did not have the online reporting services that we, I think, started in 2020, which is great, for people who really don't want to wait in any length of time. That is that opportunity for more cold calls that perhaps they can go through their insurance company. They just need a number, or they think we want to know, which we do, and there's no suspects. Well, if you go to 2022, these are just dispatch calls for service. We had another almost 500 calls into our online. So you can actually bring that up to a higher number when you talk about the service that our community need of us. And then the other part of this is, just as I've kind of been speaking, is the complexity of the calls. When you're talking about welfare checks, our behavioral health, they take time. The community is asking us, across the country, slow it down, try and de-escalate, try and resolve this, and those take time, and that means other calls are pending. So again, just want to, it's effective, but it has another impact that we have to deal with. So and those will usually fall in the priority 3 calls, which maybe are not imminent or immediate, but yet they take a lot of our times on. I would say the majority of those are our behavioral health calls that land in that priority 3. And there were about 5,000 of those calls for service were in that category. Our priority 1 and 2s, which again, with the levy, we always say we want to reduce that under 6 minutes. We've seen that increase. So to give you an example, in 2018, we had 4,186 priority 1 and 2s. This year we ended with 4,469. So again, complexity of calls, the importance of calls is what we're seeing when we do some of our analysis. Okay, let me end with at least a positive note. If we can go to the last slide. So many of you said, what's next? In our strategic plan, we've always wanted to transition to a Chiefs Advisory Panel, but of course with the Public Safety Advisory Board, That was inappropriate to just give all of our attention to what the board did. But once they were completed and we had the 2 community academies, it was a perfect time to really solicit participation from that group. And I really cast it out to the Public Safety Advisory Board and those who attended the Community Academy, because they've gotten so much education, they've been front-loaded. And of course, there was enough people in a very diverse group that will serve business communities, our diverse community. It's all there. And then with the help of Youth Counselor Nog, we have 2 potential youth that may be interested in attending. I'm communicating with both of them, so I hope to be able to announce their names as well. And we are going to have our inaugural meeting on MLK Day in the evening, and I thought, how, either you think that's bad and we want to not do it on that one, or we celebrate what MLK is about and kick off. And it was a resounding yes, we want to attend, and that day is perfect. So hope to be able to report out the progress of that. And those aren't recorded, and I imagine there'll just be a lot of honest discussions. Both I'm hearing from them and I'm sharing information back, and hopefully find that this is beneficial on both sides. So a lot of information. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you. For the Chiefs Advisory Council, how often are you anticipating meeting?
So right now we're thinking once a month, because I think we've seen different configurations where some do quarterly. I don't feel that's enough or timely if we have some issues, or I want to bounce something off or share a new policy. So I'm going to see what they want. I'm really trying to leave it to them also, and but right now I'm thinking a Monday, maybe the second Monday, once a month, and then gauge it for a little bit is what we'll look at. About 2 hours, make it meaningful with a lot of things going on. But I also want to frequent enough that I get some input. Should I then come in front of you or anywhere else, maybe I've used them as a sounding board for me on what questions they may have.
That's great. Any other questions for the chief? Councillor Shaw?
Thank you, Mayor. Testing out the hand raising function. Chief, thank you very much. I'm always hoping the numbers go down, but you had mentioned the combativeness of those who are shoplifting. Do you see that? And did you mention that was nationwide? And if so, is there anything we can do? My understanding that was due to a change in the laws recently, and how many offenses one could have before arrested, but just wanted to check in and see what your thoughts are on that.
Yes, you're absolutely right. That is a national trend that we're seeing. And, part of it is an overall attitude towards police or any authority. So we're talking about loss prevention. Of course, people don't want to be taken into custody, and they don't think that, because they'll be shocked if they go into one box store, they may just walk out, and maybe it's a policy of that department store not to engage. And then yet they go to another one and they do have loss prevention and they do engage, and now they're going to, resist or actually assault, as you've heard me say in some cases. And then the fleeing part of this when we're responding. And so I think it's just an overall attitudinal part of this, as well as not on the organized retail theft, but more on your individual persons. We're seeing a lot of fentanyl use. And again, I think people obviously do not want to be caught and put in jail for those withdrawal purposes and other accountability. So we're seeing a little bit of both. And then the organized retail thefts are organized rings that are, in some ways their own gang of a group that are professionals that go along state lines and the I-5 corridor. They can come from California, they come from Washington, and we communicate on both sides of the state because of I-5, and we see similar people. And again, the challenge is also how quickly do the stores call us, and then the avenue of escape in using the freeways is definitely a challenge for us.
Thank you, Chief.
Absolutely.
Councillor Wolf?
So Chief McAlpine, as I was sitting here listening and thinking about Councillor Shaw's question, and we'll be talking about our legislative agenda as well, and just that supportive police reforms that make showing numbers that are headed in the wrong direction, just ideas for particular things we should be advocating for.
Well, I know that majority of my peers, to include myself, believe that ballot measure 110 and decriminalizing drugs has not helped us at all. From the boots on the ground, what we see. I do know there was a study, an independent study, that suggested that's not true. However, what we see on a day-to-day basis, there is. Bail reform, again, it may help a variety of folks, but your repeat offenders, when they're not staying for any length of time in jail waiting for trial, then they're coming out and they're reoffending. And so what is intended to be equitable and fair does have an impact on folks, and we're challenged with that. And so whether or not I believe, my understanding is Governor Kotek wasn't interested in reopening or reappealing that during her election campaign. Unless something's changed, I don't know that that's going to happen. But I do believe we need other avenues. And so as Nicole Hendricks talks about the legislative, for us, and as we even educated to the downtown businesses, we need those services in place for those who are experiencing mental health, because our only avenue now is jail, which is limited and isn't appropriate, and they usually don't qualify for that. And then the emergency rooms, who are flooded, and the doctors aren't equipped, and the nurses and the staff there, and then they're back outside the door. And so the community still sees the same person over and over again and wonders where they're getting help. And so we need that system, and I believe Governor Kotek spoke to that her focus would be in making sure we stand up those services. But I can tell you, without a detox center, without places to go, it is just flooding our streets, whether you have a drug addiction, a mental health situation, or some other substance use disorder. Those are real live concerns. And as the only really 24/7 agency, along with your emergency rooms and the fire department, we're left to try and, for lack of a better term, triage the moment. But nobody's getting the help that they truly need to manage their own diseases. So thank you for asking.
Are there any additional questions? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Up next, public written comment. We did receive one comment today from Kathleen Bergquist regarding requesting Ridwell to be available in Tigard. Was there any additional written comments, City Recorder Courier?
No, we just received one.
Okay. Did everybody get a chance to read the comment? Any questions? Okay, thank you. And we don't have anyone signed up to speak in person. Network Administrator Cleary, do we have anyone on the phone today?
We have no video nor phone testimony members.
Okay, thank you so much. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. The consent agenda is used for routine items, including minutes, approval of contracts, or intergovernmental agreements. Information on each item is available on the city's website in the packet for this meeting. These items may be enacted in one motion without separate discussion. Council members may request that an item be removed by motion for discussion and separate action. On tonight's consent agenda, we have a Community Land Trust Down Payment Assistance Program and a resolution of support for a Metro 2040 Planning and Development Grant. I know that there was robust discussion regarding the Community Land Trust Down Payment Assistance Program. Does anyone have any further questions or request to pull it for additional conversation? No. Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Okay. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the consent agenda passes unanimously. Okay. Next item on the agenda is adopting the state and federal legislative agenda with Senior Management Analyst Hendricks here to provide the staff report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's good to see you. My name is Nicole Hendricks, and I am the Senior Management Analyst in the City Manager's Office here at Tigard. And yeah, I'm here tonight to propose the 2023 state and federal legislative agendas for your consideration of adoption. Next slide, please. So our ask is that you've reviewed the agendas and then we recommend adoption with any edits that you might have. Next slide, please. So I just want to highlight some considerations that went into our agenda development. And first, I also want to kind of walk through just some more context of where we've been in the agenda development process. So I came here December 13th for council meeting, and we presented the priority list to council, and we got feedback, and we incorporated that input into the agendas that you have tonight, and we also kind of added it to our list of things that we're tracking if it wasn't in the agenda. Typically, we like to adopt the agendas in December, mainly just because we want to hit the ground running in January for the state session, which is kind of gearing up this week and starts next week. So, but because we have new council members, we wanted to make sure we get your input as well and affirm kind of what previous council said. So it's a little bit more just context of where we've been on that front. So back to just some other considerations that went into the agenda development. It includes the National League of Cities and the League of Oregon Cities. So we work with them and kind of align our priorities with their priorities and make sure that we're on the same page or just understanding what we're doing. We also have recommendations from our federal advocacy group called CFM, so they give input on our draft agendas, and they're actually also going to help us with some state work as well this year, so we're kind of ramping up that work as well. We get a lot of input, a lot of super helpful input from our internal teams, and they're the experts in the field, so we get a lot of input from them and our leadership team. That's kind of where our list starts, what should be on the radar and that kind of thing. As I mentioned, we got guidance from City Council in December. And then we also have our city initiatives, so that includes things like our council goals, our community promise, and our strategic plan. And I will note that those council goals are the ones from 2021 to 23, so I know that your council goal setting is ahead, so we are talking about the 2021 goals here to 2023. Next slide, please. So these are the high-level initiatives for our state and our federal agenda. So you'll see on the state agenda, we have transportation and infrastructure. That includes things like support for Hall Boulevard. We also have housing and mental health services. That includes things around affordable housing and things like the chief mentioned earlier around mental health. And then city funding and local control. So I'll also just note the version that is in your packet, we have updated photos that you took last week, so your council photos will be updated as well. Those are just a placeholder. So that's kind of high level of the state agenda. And then the federal agenda, we have the project and program funding requests. So that includes things like our federal earmark requests, grant asks, things like that. And then we have the transportation and infrastructure. So we have a lot of transportation and infrastructure projects going on. And you can see kind of the details of those projects in your packet. Next slide, please. So that's kind of the high level. We're asking you to discuss and then consider adoption of both agendas. And if you have any edits, include that in the adoption so that we can keep moving forward in the process and be ready to go for state efforts. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for the additional background and context of why we're asking a fairly new council to approve these. I think it's a common question of, why wasn't this approved beforehand? And so we really felt that it was important for all of you who are going to help us advocate to be a part of the process. So I will open it up for questions and comments. Yes, Councillor Shaw.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you so much for the presentation. I know earlier we had talked about the federal legislative priorities, Nicole, as well as the state. So thank you very much, and love the graphics. We had talked about also having some messaging in there, just thanking the congressional members for IIJA as well as IRA, since that was significant infrastructure and dollars that went to the city. Was that something that you all decided would be more appropriate in a cover letter, or just want to find out where it might be if it's not on this very beautiful graphic and priority list?
Thanks for the comments. We did add language under transportation and infrastructure. There's like that little paragraph that talks about our vision, and then it mentions the Infrastructure and Investment and Jobs Act, and that those were important actions taken. So that was kind of where we acknowledged that. But if you prefer other wording, then we can adjust it.
No, I thought that was fine, just hidden, but at least we've acknowledged it, so I do appreciate you putting it in there. Thank you.
Okay.
And we can certainly highlight it when we speak to congressional members. Thank you.
Thank you.
Council President Hu?
I just want to thank the previous council members for their thoughtful input and direction, and the opportunity given to the new council members to digest. And thanks to Ms. Hendricks and staff members very much for answering many of our questions and keeping the new council members up to speed on this legislative agenda. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Thank you. I will say, the more that I started talking about it, I know during the previous council's discussions, we did talk about how there was a lot on the list, and I don't disagree that all of these things are priorities and things that we should be advocating for. My concern is when everything is a priority, nothing is a priority. Yeah. And this is a very big list that's overwhelming. And I don't know that it's necessarily an easy way for anyone to see our top 3 priorities. Like if I were to go to a legislator and hand this over, I'm not sure that they would know exactly what we would want them to focus on without having a robust conversation on it. So I want to vocalize that that's my concern, is that it looks like we're interested in everything, which we are. As a city, we're very, very busy, but I think it could be important for us maybe to focus our asks a little, to really be specific. So we also have the tools as the counselor. If anybody runs into anybody, we know exactly these are the 3 things that we're asking for from you for this term. Yeah. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, thank you for those comments. And yeah, that we definitely heard that from council, especially with that first priority list. And we do have a lot going on. We also are developing one-pagers to be more specific with asks. So things like Hall Boulevard, we'll have a one-pager for that, so it can be a clear ask. But that's something that we can also keep in mind for legislative agenda development in the future, is like top 3. If that's what we want to see, then we can make it very clear. Thanks for, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, no, I think this is a powerful way for us to be able to advocate on these issues, but just as far as, really being able to.
Okay.
Are there any questions or comments, or would anybody like to, yes, Councilor Wolf. And do you turn, Yeah,
so it was in my order of pushing buttons there. So I wanted to thank Senior Analyst Hendricks for her time to walk through this and help get new council members up to speed, and appreciate the comments, Mayor Lubin. My only comment was to also just to continue to help me understand the need, kind of quantify dollar-wise, the specific asks and the needs. So hoping to do that through the year. So just some of these pieces make more sense in a financial terms, and not just the priority list. So I look forward to continue that work and learning more about these projects. So, but I'm in support, and I agree that priorities of particular projects would be helpful. So thank you for that.
Yes, and Ms. Hendricks, do the other councilors also know that we have a bills tracking sheet? So as the legislative session goes forward, we're tracking everything that
Yeah, I had the opportunity to mention it to them, but I don't think I got to talk to you about it. So we do have a bill tracker sheet, and now actually, I mentioned earlier, we're working with CFM, and so we're working together now to kind of focus in our efforts, but that is something that we do, and we'll continue to track and try to stay as much ahead of it as we can.
Yeah, with the long session, you're going to stay very busy.
It's a lot, yeah.
Councillor Singh?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you. I just want to thank the previous council as well. I'm in total alignment with a lot of the priorities. So, yeah, thank you for your hard work on that.
Thanks.
Okay. Youth Councillor Nung?
Okay, so, oh, it's glued to the, never mind. So, I know I sent you like a list of bills today that I thought were cool, but my question is, since like maybe a lot of them don't fit within our priorities, do we have a couple of bills that we're looking into that are like, oh, it's not a priority, but it would be cool if it got passed? And if there is a list like that, you know, how can people take more action to like get it done if they have free time?
That's a great question. Thank you. So yeah, our tracker does prioritize bills, so it's all one list, but we do kind of have like a 1, 2, 3 kind of system that relates to the initiatives that are on the agenda of council, of our city priorities. So we do prioritize them, and we're also working on just for people who want to get more engaged and advocate and things like that. We're working on a legislative advocacy webpage, so that one, people can like easily check like who are the representatives. I feel like that's sometimes it's just kind of hard to find. So making sure that's clear, seeing what our priorities are, and then potentially like call to actions if we want support or things like that. So that will be one presence that we're currently working on. Does that? Okay, cool.
Youth Councillor Nog, I also would encourage you to visit the OLIS website, OLIS, to be able to track any bill that you may be interested in and reach out to that legislator directly. Councillor Shaw.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, excellent presentation, and the graphics are great. The content's good. Agree with the prioritization, and probably even, I'm sure once the state goes into their budget review, we'll probably tailor that list even more so. But in the meantime, I'm wondering, Mayor, if it's possible to also list the other council members under key contacts on the federal list, just to show that we all have breadth of support for this Federal Priorities 2023 list.
Senior Management Analyst Hendricks, is that possible?
Oh, yeah. If that's what you're okay with, then we can make that happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Are there any other changes or questions or comments? If not, I could entertain would you like them passed separately or together?
Together is fine.
Okay. Youth Councillor Nunn?
Sorry, I just had one more question.
Oh, yeah.
Is there a reason why we aren't prioritizing like climate action in our state legislative session this year?
I think we had specific projects, but I guess generally we didn't talk about like climate action as like a main priority. Is that what you're asking? Like transportation infrastructure? I mean, that's something that we can, usually we kind of discuss that more early on in the process, but we do have some more like specific climate asks. Yeah, I don't, oh, sorry.
Is that something that the council would like to perhaps add or see?
I would support that. I think there are, I've been tracking a lot of climate bills statewide, locally, and I think just tracking them might be good. Having it on the tracker sheet might be helpful for us too.
Councillor Shaw?
Oh, I was going to mention having them on the tracking sheet as well, so thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Wolf?
Yeah, I agree. I appreciate that, Youth Counselor Nog, but I think given the timeliness of moving them forward, and I think we'd want to be thoughtful about the wording in this statement, but I think the continued advocacy, knowing that we would be in support of that, but it would probably be difficult to, change at this point, to add, I think, just so that you all can get that printed and moving it forward. But the tracker list, because it's critical, but probably embedded in a lot of these as well, so.
And we'll make sure that the climate action is part of that priority list when we think about this next year, so we can talk about it more early on, and we'll include it in the tracker.
Well, and I also wonder that kind of climate lens,
Yeah.
right? So as you look at what do we prioritize to leverage a climate lens
Yeah.
kind of mindset and how that impacts.
Nice.
I agree. I think that needs to be embedded into every decision we make. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Anybody feeling excited about making a motion?
I'm happy to do that. I move to approve Tigard's 2023 state and federal legislative agendas.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. All those in favor of approving the 2023 federal and state legislative agendas, please say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it looks like our federal and state agendas pass unanimously.
Thank you
Thank
for your
you.
time. Appreciate it.
Point of order, Mayor
Yep.
Lube, will we continue this year with the advisory?
Oh,
from-
I apologize.
Thank you.
Youth Councilor Nog, would you like to give us an advisory vote?
Definitely. Yes.
Thank you. We'll make sure that that's added to our packet. Okay. All right, next up on the list, we have non-agenda items, and we have added filling or appointing a youth member to the Charter Review Committee. And for that, I will turn it over to City Manager Reimer to discuss.
Well, thank you, Mayor and Councilors. As I mentioned, we do have a vacancy with our youth member position on the Charter Review Committee that just kicked off this week. And our city attorney, who's part of that team, has a few thoughts on how to proceed. And we wanted to get your input prior to taking any other actions.
I don't know if you received an email from Alex Richardson about this, but last night at the TIAC meeting, we actually had 2 of the TIAC members interested. So I don't know if there's any need to actively recruit members, but we have people that are interested.
Good evening, Council. So last night, the TIAC was contacted about serving. We did have 2 members who expressed interest. City staff have reached out to those 2 members. They will provide applications, and we can get that to Council for Council's review and consideration. In addition to that, we have also discussed that in order to cast a broader net with the city's youth, part of the charter committee is charter chats that we have planned. There'll be an open house style forum as we get down the road and have these proposals a little bit more cemented and have language. So we'll be doing that broadly around the community, but we were proposing one that would be narrowly tailored to the TIAC committee so that we can really focus on getting as much youth consideration and involvement as possible. So those are our 2 plans. We were hoping that we would be able to fill the position with such a short notice. The committee started last night, so it is a tight turnaround, but we were pleased to get the 2 expressions of interest last night. So we'll continue moving forward with that, and hopefully by your next meeting we have a recommendation for your consideration.
Thank you, City Attorney Rahala. Can you remind me, how often is the Charter Review Committee meeting?
Yeah, so the Charter Committee will meet every other week, the 2nd and 4th Monday. It does meet from 5:30 to 7:30 virtually, which unfortunately does overlap partially with the TIAC. That we are set on that schedule for now, so hopefully we can steal away a member from part of that meeting.
Excellent. Are there any questions or comments regarding how we move forward? Yes, Youth Councilor Nog.
I just have a quick question for the open house with the TIAC members. would it be all right if we open it up to like more youth in the community? So if we like publicize it on Instagram where it's like, hey, if you're interested, join our TIAC meeting for tonight. Would that be all right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely the intention, is to get a broad as net as possible. And that's still, we are far from being able to plan that right now, but just an idea that we're floating around.
Excellent. Yes, Council President Hu?
Just in terms of, in case the youth member, for whatever reason, resign again, would I create another issue, or should we think about having an alternate youth as well, just so?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Because there are 2 youth interested, in order to prevent this situation again, I would suggest, hopefully if they continue to still be interested after the interviews, that yes, next meeting council would appoint a primary and an alternate.
I'm excited to see that there are individuals who are interested in participating. It's such an important step for our community and an important discussion. And it's wonderful to have youth at the table to talk about the kind of Tigard that they want and what they want their government to look like moving forward. So it's an important discussion. Okay. Any other additional questions or comments? Seeing none, we will move on to the administrative report for City Manager Reimer.
Well, good evening again, Mayor, councilors, members of the community, and my teammates. Just a few quick updates. First, from our great library team, who is always providing us with interesting updates for all of you. Our teen winter reading program is back through February 28th, and so this is a chance for us to encourage teens grades 6 through 12 to read through some friendly competition and an opportunity to win some of the prizes that we offer for that. And the teens can stop by the library to pick up a free book and to thank the Friends of the Tigard Library for being part of this. The library is also partnering with our Meals on Wheels people for short-term intervention program with Washington County. And so this is another great resource that we're providing there. It's going to be a one-on-one resource connection where seniors can sign up for 30-minute appointments on the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays of each month, and where they can just get support for basic needs such as utility assistance, housing resources, other things, or healthcare advocacy, navigating government, civil services, et cetera. So the seniors can sign up at the library website or call 503-684-6537. 503-684-6537. And also, our library card holders have another great opportunity with our it's WCCLS, and so we're going to talk about acronyms. I know every meeting, our Washington County Cooperative Library System is their adventure pass to visit 11 local attractions for free. And so passes can be reserved online for up to 3 months in advance and then brought and downloaded before each visit. This allows 2 people per reservation to visit the different spots. I do not know the locations right now, but if they go to the site, they can find out where those are. Just a couple other things with our, we've mentioned some of the pedestrian and roadway improvements that we're working on, which is a high priority, obviously, for this council as well as this community. And those improvements are on their way to Locust Street near Metzger Elementary, which is going to be great. And this is thanks to the Oregon Department of Transportation Safe Routes to School funds. And so we're going to be having a second community open house this Thursday from 6 to 7 at Metzger, where the community can engage with us and discuss the project, and opportunities for the new sidewalk, landscaping, accessibility, et cetera. So encourage the community, Metzger from 6 to 7 this Thursday. And this last, I want to thank the council. I don't even know if you were directly doing it, but you were living our community promise in your last conversation focused on our priorities. When the council adopted the priorities with our 5 E's, the environment is one of the 5 E's, and Mayor, you just made the statement. It should be the lens with what we do, with what we look at everything, and so that's really what the community promise is about. So it's great to see it in action in all the different conversations we have as a team, but also the council referencing how equity in the environment and the economy and excellence engagement need to really shine on who we are. And so hopefully at the advance we can even talk about that a little, just to keep reinforcing the importance of all those as we make decisions like your legislative agenda and all the other decisions that come before you during the course of a year. So with that concludes my remarks, and thank you for a good meeting.
Thank you. We don't have any executive sessions planned tonight, and so I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
I move to adjourn.
Counselor Shaw, would you? Yep. All right. The motion for adjournment has been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned.